Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little knife here. This is the Wheat Knives Rectifier. First off, the name of full disclosure, I want to thank my buddy Zelric. He's another YouTuber, and you should check out his channel. But he also handles a lot of service stuff for Wheat Knives, so he's kind of with the manufacturer. I don't quite know. But I've told him, as always, I'll talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. I've torn the crap some stuff he sent me before, so he knows the deal. But nevertheless, I figured I'd throw it out there. Next thing, size comparison. This is not a big knife. In blade length-wise, it is actually right in the Spyderco-Delica vicinity, although with a bit more sharpened edge. Here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2 and your Ontario Rat number 1, so you can see it's much closer to Rat 2 size. Very nice little size range here, and then anything else worth talking about? Yeah, actually, I'll put it up next to the Wheat Knives Wisp, which is a larger option, and also a slightly more, I don't know, high, it's a fancier version, but a really nice knife nonetheless. So, anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting little pocket knife here. So on the first side, on the good side first, this guy has a really nice size. If we take a look at the length of this guy, and where is my good ruler? I don't know, so I'll use the crappy one. This guy is coming in right around 3 inches. It'll be legal in most 3-inch areas, and that's absolutely a great thing. And frankly, I think 3 inches is a good trade-off between carryability and get stuff done ability for a lot of folks, so that's nice. Next thing, this has really nice screws. As you can see here, this is using just good old-fashioned vanilla Torx screws. In fact, as I recall, it's using all T8, which is great. And it's a sign that Wheat Knives has come to their senses. They were using bad screws for a while, but now they've moved to real ones, and it's a big improvement. Another thing I'll say in terms of coming to their senses, this has a name. And by the way, this has a great name. It used to be that we would do like 804, 805, 806, and I don't know what any of those are. But this is, it's called the Rectifier. And you know what? I love that just because rectifiers are awesome. A rectifier is a circuit tool, basically, that turns an alternating signal into a direct one. I actually use them regularly, although I implement them in software generally, but still. It's a great concept, and I like very much that they gave it a very nerdy name. So, for an acoustics person, kind of a love letter to me. But hey, whatever it is. Next thing, ergonomics, good. Absolutely very good. You can see here, it's got a relatively small clip here, but it's positioned well for the hand. You've got a nice thumb ramp here. It fits well in my, admittedly, relatively small hands. I like that very much. Clip on this guy is very nice, and it's also, by the way, two-sided, so you can flip it over if you're a lefty, just by flipping there. Absolutely great, and it works well. It's got plenty of spring to it. Wii is doing great work on clips lately. Next thing, this is actually pretty carryable for a couple of reasons. A, it's got some nice cant. B, you can see that the body of the knife slopes down a little bit, and that makes the pocket pecker a little less prominent, although it's a little pecky still. And overall, it carries well. This was a joy to have in the pocket. Next thing, blade on this is very nice. It is S35 VN blade. Steel, here we go. See if I can highlight that and focus. Yeah, there we go. S35 VN. Great steel. No complaints whatsoever. It's got a sharpening choil, which is nice. It has a very, very nice blade shape with some flat, some belly, some tip. Absolutely good to go there, and that's good. And then finally, it's a pretty solid value. Even though half of this is G10, it is a S35 VN frame lock clipper. Pardon me. Coming in at $145. You know what? That's good. I like it. It's solid. And for this price, think about how long ago it was the case that frame lock flippers. I'm sorry, I'm digressing here, but it's really nice to see that these are coming down in price very steadily. That's pretty excellent. So to me, all of that is the good. It's a solid value. It's a nice blade. It's well made, quite carryable, nice clip, nice detent, very nice ergos, a good name, a great name at least to me, and absolutely some stellar screws in a nice size. To me, though, what is really great about this guy is the blade stock thickness. That's kind of a weird thing to think is really, really great, but the thing is, guys, it's really, really great, because this means that Wheat Knives has finally discovered that people make blade stock that is thin. This is coming in at, and depending on how you want to measure it, but someplace in the 0.095, 0.096 range. Either way, it is slicey as heck, but more importantly, it's also a very tall blade. which means that it is not only slicey, but it goes to a really, really thin edge there. And that makes this guy just a beautiful cutting knife. It cuts absolutely freaking spectacularly. I'm a big, big fan of that, and it makes it relatively, and it sharpens up nicely. This is a wonderful freaking blade. I absolutely loved cutting with this guy, and this cuts in a sense that there are very few modern knives that do. Very, very few people are using thin stock, and even fewer are grinding it really well. Spyderco Chaparral, but nonetheless, I love, love, love the fact that this is so damn slicey. That's spectacular, and I'm glad to see we addressing the slicer market, because God knows we need more progress over there. So to me, that's the greatest, that this is slicey as heck. On the bad side, and I know it's the Rectifier, I should only let the positive through. But anyways, well, on the bad side, first off, slicey edges, they're a mixed bag. For me, in my life and my use, they're almost universally a positive. But for some people, especially if you're hard using your knife, or if you ever pry and don't pry with your knife, or screw drive and don't screw drive with your knife, it means the tip is going to be a little bit more fragile and the edge on the hole is. So if you're a super hard-use beatery kind of person, you're not going to want to use this guy. You're going to want to use something else, but that's okay. Next thing, this has the slightest hint of a recurve down here. If we take a look here, you can see that the sharpening choil isn't quite complete, and so there's a little bit of curve down in there. That just means it's going to be a pain on flat bench stones, and maybe even with guided angle systems. Not the end of the world, but I would have liked to seen that go out just a little bit further so they'd fully clear the plunge. Not a terrible thing, but it's a thing. Next thing, this is less of a dig on the, well, this is kind of a weird knife in Wee's lineup. It feels honestly a little bit down market to what you see from Wee knives generally. I'll put a couple other Wee knives on the table here, the Wisp, the Vapor here, and the Practic. And practically speaking, although the Practic is kind of designed to be down market, most of what Wee is doing is, full metal with some contouring, etc. Whereas this guy is just slab side titanium, slab side titanium. And that just makes it, given that Wee has kind of made a name for themselves with crazy intricate machining, it makes it a little bit outside of the thing. And there's no contouring really on the G10 aside from, the edge chamfers and things like that. The price is still fine, but it's a little bit of an outlier from Wee knives, and I don't know. It's just something to consider. Wee knives doesn't always mean crazy machining, and in this case, it certainly doesn't. Next thing, I gotta say, I'm not seeing the blade hole here. I would have rather that they'd taken the grind a little higher there and skipped the hole, because let's face it, you're not really gonna be able to use it. Maybe. No, I'm not going to be able to use this. Maybe if you've got adamantium freaking fingernails, you could pull that off, but for the most part, it's just ornamental. And honestly, the hole complete with the crud catcher just doesn't do it for me at all. I'd rather it not be there always, and especially in this case, yeah, it seems a little silly, especially on a knife that's really meant to grind, or to slice, that is. Next thing, the balance on this guy is a little bit on the far back side. We are coming in right around here-ish. It's probably because of the titanium spacer, and this is probably titanium because they need something to lanyard hole. I don't know. Not a big deal, but it's pretty okay. And the thing is, it's got really thin blade stock, so of course the balance is going to be a little further back because this part is really lightweight. And then finally on the bad side, probably the worst thing about this guy is kind of unavoidable, and that is the fact that this is using very thin stock, yet it is still using a flipper tab. Now, notice, though, that you've got a fair amount of rounding on there. So there is jimping, but there is also chamfering against the jimping, which makes this guy a lot more comfortable and a lot easier in the pocket than usual. But the simple fact is that when you've got really thin blade stock, flipper tabs are a little less comfortable. Hurts a little bit more. It's not the end of any worlds, but, and you know what, I'll take a little pain for this kind of slicing power, but it is something you want to keep in mind. If you are sensitive to, I hate fingertip pain, I'm sure everybody hates fingertip pain, but if that bugs you extra, this might not be a choice for you. But that said, I'm not going to beat them up too much on it because honestly, that's the price of admission for really thin stock on a flipper. To the best of my knowledge, nobody has yet solved, actually that's not true. Kershaw they had a weird little guy with a little barrel-shaped flipper tab whose name I'm completely spacing because I'm an idiot. I'm sure it'll be down in the comments below. A little tiny thing. But anyways, I'll think of it tonight in the shower. But anyways, they had one where the flipper tab was separate from the blade. But it's a hard problem to have a flipper tab on thin stock, and unfortunately, that's an issue here. But like I said, that's kind of the nature of the beast. So to me, that's what's bad here, is that the thin stock and the flipper tab can make for an unpleasant combination. The balance is a little further back. No need for a blade hole here. It feels a little down market relative to a lot of what we does, but the price is okay. It's got the slightest hint of recurve here, and slicey edges aren't necessarily for everybody, although I think they're for a heavy majority. And then on the ugly front, there's nothing really ugly here, so let's go into the final conclusions, which is that this is a great knife. It's thin, it's carryable, it's got a great action, it's excellently built, and, WE has abandoned a lot of their past sins. No more star screws, no more numbers. They're doing just really good work here, and the fact that it is slicey like whoa, because WE has finally discovered that metal comes in thinner chunks, all at a price that's within reach for most people, that is great. Absolutely 100% I like this knife. And there's a reason I asked specifically. I'm way behind the times on this guy. I contacted Zell like, hey, you got some antiques around? Looking for this guy in the Wisp, just knowing I would have liked them. But you know what? I'm glad I did. It's not perfection. It's a little less impressive machining technically than most of WE's stuff. It's still got the weird blade hole. And then it's not the most comfy flipper tab ever, although that's a small price to pay for this kind of cutting power. But you know what? It's pretty damn good. And this quickly joins the sort of pantheon of really great slices. Knives like the Spyderco Centofonte Chaparral, the TRM Neutron, the Open L's, seriously, next to the Open L blade stock, not much thicker. Next to the Kershaw freaking Dividend. About the same thickness here, although a higher grind. This is absolutely 100% a beautiful, beautiful slicer. And I hope that we see more knives with this really thin stock out of WE in the future. Because eventually, that kind of thing will start to become a pattern. I hope that as more people handle knives with thin stock and they're like, oh my God, this thing cuts, that's amazing, then more and more people are going to realize that just how good they could have it. And they're going to start turning up their noses at these knives that are ground like pry bars and go like, no, we want our knives to work. But, and after a while, and especially if a company like WE is able to start putting them out on serious budget and in a variety of designs, that's great. And it may eventually rectify that ugly thick blade stock trend in the knife world. So overall, my feelings on this is a knife I will absolutely recommend. If you are after a slicer, that is really your first priority. You should definitely consider this. You should also think about the Wisp if you want to go up market a little bit, which has very similar stock thickness. It's a little less slicey just because the grind isn't quite as tall, but it's still quite excellent in that regard. But look, if you're after something slice-tastic, I think you will come away from the Rectifier feeling only positive. Okay. Anyways, hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.